live. Or, yeah.
Rolling out with the future, electric dreams inside Justise, Ray and Phil lighting up the mic. From the latest in tech to the roads we pave, debating all things EV, the power we crave. Justise, Ray and Phil in Electric West. Watch, like, and subscribe. Be part of our guest. CarEdge Electric, where passions ignite. The show starts now. Embrace the EV life.
Heck
Wow.
yeah. I love
Hey
that.
guys.
Wow. Can we do that every week?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's our new intro. That's our new intro.
Oh, I love it.
Decided this was the right episode to introduce it
Wow.
and stop having Phil play his piano and stop him being a special guest. I think it was time to acknowledge it. Phil is fully part of CarEdge Electric.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
I love that. Well done. Well done.
May I say that makes my intro on the Ray and Zach Daily Show pale in comparison. No wonder everybody complains.
So happy 100th episode. Thank you everyone for being here. We got, for anyone who doesn't know him, you better know Zach. Justin, who had started this channel with Zach way back in the day. And I just want to clarify that this is the 100th episode of CarEdge Unplugged. So I did not count Justin and Zach's plugged in show that they used to do into the 100.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then Miss Kimberly Klein has taken time out from Auto Finance Sense to come be with us again.
It is
We've
an
all
honor.
missed you.
Oh, thank you. And I missed you all too. It's so good to see everybody on the screen. And it is an honor. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Justise.
Yeah, we're so glad to have everyone here. Justin, I think you have some news that just broke a few minutes ago too.
Yeah. What's going on?
I mean, if we want to start out on a down note, we can do that. But all of our hopes and dreams have been slashed by Tesla canceling a model that even I was looking forward to. I don't own a Tesla. I own a Ioniq 5 that's currently in the shop. We could talk about that. But yeah, the Tesla Model 2 rumored to be $25,000. Reuters reports that it has been canceled. And a complete shock to everyone. This was not on the radar for anyone, any media that I had seen ever anywhere. What about you, Justise?
No, and what are they going to do with the Mexico plant? Then
Build Cybertrucks for everyone, I guess.
Just gonna say
free refrigerators for Mexico.
So I mean, that was shocking to learn.
Did they say why?
Yeah, they've reported. So this is all rumored, but apparently it's from trusted sources at Tesla. So via Reuters, they've reported that it's going to be due to the tremendous threat of affordable Chinese EVs arriving in North America, particularly BYD, and a shift in their business model to robo-taxis and full self-driving. That's very, very interesting, and I look forward to hearing what you all think about that.
They have been pushing full self-driving very, very hard. They have my email address, and I get daily emails about full self-driving, and that seems to be their focus. So I would believe that. Let's go around. What do we all think about that? Because that's big news. If it's
in the chat, I've got to jump in here and say in the chat, we've got people saying that Elon, I'm guessing on X, is already saying that Reuters is wrong. But I mean, time will tell. So they've got their multiple internal Tesla sources, apparently. What do we think about this?
Can I suggest that Reuters' source for the story was probably Elon himself?
Yes, that's what I was going to say too. Yep.
So, if it's true, let's assume for the sake of this moment that it's true. Zach, let's start with you. What do you think of, about hearing that? No more cheap Tesla coming?
I think you've got to be imagining BYD's right around the corner and other Chinese EV automakers are right around the corner. I've said this on the show I do with my dad all the time. feels eerily reminiscent of when Toyota came to the United States in the early 60s, I think it was. They were the cheap brand that was reliable and got people from point A to point B. Yeah, I think that's what it signals to me is that's not the customer that Tesla wants to service, and they think someone else is going to come in and fill that void. That's where my mind's at, Justice.
Yeah, I just think, for me, wouldn't BYD be a reason why you would want to release the cheaper EV? Like, isn't that what competition is supposed to do? Did you get that? Why would you go, well, they're going to come in with something cheaper, so we're not going to do it?
It
There's
feels
no
like it's a
money.
race to the bottom. What was that, Ted?
Yeah.
There's no money. There's no
Yeah,
money
exactly.
in
It's a
it
race to
for
the bottom.
cheap
Yeah.
EV.
Yeah.
Can I ask a silly question?
Better
You
than
get-
anyone I
Justice,
know.
You get emails from Tesla every day about full self-driving. What do they charge for that?
Well, so it's like 15,000 up front, or what they're pushing is the $200 a month.
Crazy.
Forever?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why they're not going to build a small, cheap EV. They're planning on making their money from software.
Well, yeah, certainly. And I know the $200 a month, like, if you're only going to keep your car for 2 years, it's a much better deal than paying 15,000. Because the one thing I will tell you this, when you shop for used Teslas, if you have one that already has full self-driving beta already installed and paid for, yeah, they're not charging you anymore for that vehicle. Dealers put zero value into that.
I want Phil and Kimberly's take on this.
Yeah.
Kimberly, what do you think of Tesla not producing a 25,000, really cheap electric vehicle?
Well, I thought that BYD meant bring your dough, like bring your dough because it's going to cost you. But no, I honestly, Elon, it's not that I don't trust Elon, but I think he changes his mind in what he throws out there in the media every day. I'm kind of with Ray on this. And tomorrow it could be something completely different. So I don't put a whole lot of stock into it yet.
Well, I will say this. I'm on X right now looking at all of his posts and replies, and he has not mentioned this. Yeah. So, Phil, what do you think?
So maybe it is an April Fool's, right? But anyway, I kind of agree with Zach that it's a kind of a race to the bottom. They don't want to deal with this. They want, if there's going to be other competition coming in to supply the market with those lower priced EVs, I don't think that's what Tesla wants to compete with. And they do want to do the full self-driving. We've always talked about it. They are a tech company, right? First, they're a software tech company. They're not, yes, they do manufacture cars, but I think the full intent is to get to that full self-driving, and that what those taxi, whatever they're going to do with the vehicles for transport services or whatever. But that's my thought. Time will tell, obviously. But it's Elon, so he'll change he could. If this is real, he could change his mind tomorrow. It could be completely back on the table. So who knows?
Yeah, I would think that if this was not real, he probably would have posted something up on X by now. I would have thought, but maybe not. He might be busy. Yes.
Two thoughts that come to mind. So first, what if it makes sense to pivot the Model 3 to a lower price point over the course of a few years? Give us a couple more $2,000 price cuts. Just say it ends up being a $30,000 Model 3. That's a lot of value. I mean, I don't own one, but I've test driven enough Model 3s to know that at $30,000, that would be insane. And I think it would sell like hotcakes, as they say here in the South. So what do you think about that, Justice? Is that in the realm of possibilities? You follow Tesla closer than I do.
Yeah, I mean, they're very likely to do that. They've been shifting the price, as we talk about all the time. Tesla is the most reactive company out there, and because they sell direct to consumer, they can change the price tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, and they do. So
From
I
a
mean,
research and development standpoint, that makes so much sense to just do that. Research and development is expensive.
yeah, I'm just curious. Just in the again, like I said, I don't know what they're going to do with the Mexico plant then. But if you're suggesting the Model 3 ends up being, somewhere near the 30,000 range, maybe that's what they do.
And then my other
It goes
thought
over
is
there.
like, as an EV driver myself, not driving an EV for the next week. We'll get into that. It really seems like Tesla's going to own the whole EV charging space. Non-Teslas will be relying on the great supercharger network to have reliable charging nationwide. I mean,
And it's already a pain in the butt. And I'm really sorry to see all those cars there.
yeah. Well, so where I live, I don't see that, but in California, cannot imagine. But can Tesla make money on charging? Is that because charging is not a profitable business unless you are at massive scale, and Tesla is at massive scale. So what's the deal there?
Well, they charge more for non-Teslas than they
Okay.
do for Teslas already. And it's like 50% more. It's not an insignificant amount.
I will fund your network in exchange for reliability.
Says the Ionic 5 owner.
Yes.
Yeah, who does not have his Ionic 5?
What? So you must explain what the hell's going on with the
Yeah.
Ionic 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about 10 days ago, there was a recall notice for it's not the big high voltage battery, it's the 12-volt battery that the rest of us have in the front of our cars. Yeah. Well, most EVs, are maybe all of them, have a 12-volt battery for like turning on the car, running the radio when the car's not fully on, etc. And there were some issues related to that in high enough numbers that they did issue a recall first in Korea and then here in the US. And just a week later, my car ended up having the issue. It's amazing. And so I've gone 45,000 miles. This is my 2-year anniversary this week of having this wonderful car. 2 years. And this is the first actual issue that I've had. I still love it. I miss it so much. I drove a Dodge Charger when I needed a rental car, and it was just sad. It was horrible. No offense to Subaru, but driving my wife's wonderful Subaru Forester does not compare to my beloved Ionic 5. So it's in the shop, obviously under warranty, getting fixed soon, but I expect to be without it for another 5 days or so.
Wow.
That's sad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's not the expensive big battery,
No.
but you did. So this is actually the second time you've had trouble. You had a rattle with your back latch. So there you go. There's 2 things now.
If we're counting things like that, yeah. Also, the seat button, a button on the overly electronic seat, stopped working and had to be replaced. But this is the first thing that you could almost say is powertrain related, even though it's more electronic and I don't know. Yeah, electric motors have performed wonderfully. High voltage battery pack, 77 kilowatt hours. I don't like that it has so much cobalt in it because of the controversies around the sourcing of cobalt. But other than that, it's been a great powertrain that Hyundai developed in-house. So, yeah. I miss my car.
And you've put 45,000 miles on it already?
Yeah, so where I live, everything's 20 miles away.
Wow.
So add that up pretty fast, and a few vacations per year, driving down to the beach, and 45,000 miles in exactly 2 years.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And obviously in 45,000 miles, you haven't had to do an oil change.
No.
What type of services have been required, or have they recommended over that lifespan?
One that is recommended is changing out the fluid that is a part of the battery management system. I believe, I could be wrong, correct me in the chat, it's called like high voltage fluid or something like that. It circulates throughout the actual battery pack, but it's recommended at a certain point, and I haven't had it done, honestly, because I I'm one of those people that thinks that the dealership would probably mess up the car if they did something like that. But I may have it done. Reading the forums online, it looks like it's not been done by a lot of people. But I got one new pair of tires, but I kept the original set, so I did not burn through that first set. I bought some winter tires. Yeah, I really haven't had any work done until now on the car. Coming from a few vehicles that constantly needed work, that each thing seemed like it cost $500 to $1,000, sometimes more. Yeah, my car was $56,000. I also had the tax credit that helped, but it sure is nice not having those surprise $1,000 bills for fixing this or that. Once the warranty is out in a few years, we'll see if I'm still saying that. I'll report back.
It'll all add up when you have to replace the battery outside of warranty.
I am a rolling experiment, but
Just saying.
looking at the high mileage Ioniq 5s and Kia EV6s that are out there, a lot of ride sharing people and whatnot, there are not reports of like massive failure unless they're in like an accident of some sort. Yeah. So I am encouraged by what I've seen, but I will report back. Yeah, we'll see.
There are now 9 million mile Teslas, and only 3 of them have had battery replacements.
Wow.
What have you run a report on battery health?
Yes, I did, using Recurrent Auto when I was at about 35,000 miles. I haven't looked at it since then. And I was reported to have something like 1 to 2% loss at
That's
35.
nothing.
Yeah, and I haven't noticed it. Now I am at now here at 45,000 miles. I can't notice any range loss. And I have taken trips. Went to the Southeast recently, drove my car. I wanted to take advantage of the last month of my free charging at Electrify America. I did that, and I did not notice any loss in range at all. Like not even this tiniest bit. It was kind of impressive.
Yeah, my 2020 has 3% loss. And it's been that since I got it, and it's still there. I haven't lost anything beyond that.
So if you extrapolate out, these batteries should last like forever.
The general consensus is about 200,000 miles, give or take 50,000.
Yep.
Now
the battery degrades over time, just naturally. That's what happens.
Yes, but Phil, the physics and experiments from the engineers at these respective automakers has shown that it drops off when the battery is fresh. So like in the first 10 to 20,000 miles of driving, you're going to get the quickest battery degradation. And then it levels off. So if Justise is at 3% right now, he might only be at like 4% or 5% 50,000 miles from now. If I'm at 1 to 2% loss right now at 45,000 miles, I might be looking at maybe 5% loss when I get to like 120,000 miles. So as far as everyone can tell with experiments and people who have gone that many miles already, it's not going to be like a massive drop off. One thing I want to mention, thank you for letting me talk so much, you guys. I am not quite so terrified about the cost of replacing the battery if it has to happen, say 5 years from now. Hopefully it's way longer than that, because Hyundai and many other automakers, they're starting to source their batteries here in the United States. Hyundai Motor Group will be building their batteries in Georgia starting next year. And I've been told, even from sources at Hyundai, because I've asked, that is going to massively drop the cost of replacing a Hyundai EV's battery, because right now, if that happens, they've got to ship it from Korea on a boat. We all saw in Baltimore what can go wrong when that happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
Kimberly, did you say you were getting an EV?
What? No.
Was that what you were saying? I
didn't
swear
say
I heard you
that.
saying you were getting an EV now.
No. I did a little. Yeah, I'm not there, Justise. I'm just not there. I'm having enough frustration right now with my Volvo XC40 Ultimate bright blooded blah blah blah, because it requires updates. And since when did cars begin to require it's so annoying. It is so annoying.
That's very common in the EV world. Just
Oh,
saying.
yeah. And you know, Phil knows firsthand how I am with computers and like technology. So
Yes.
not real thrilled about that. But I will say, and I've said this before, I cringe when I hear talk from government officials pushing the EV thing, because the more I hear it from the higher ups, the more I want to push back against it. I really hate the idea of a government trying to tell me what I'm going to purchase in the future. And I do know too, I hate to be the Debbie Downer of EVs here. I mean, happy anniversary. It's your 100th episode. But there is still range anxiety. And I do know that there are more and more charging stations being put into place, which is a really good thing. I did check again down at the grocery store yesterday, and it's the one that's there is still not working. Yeah, I'm not on board. And I feel like with my hybrid, that, because that's kind of a stepping stone for a lot of people, right? Trying to figure out if you want to do that or not. Do I want to go? I don't really want to go EV, but I care about the planet. I'll try the hybrid thing. It is a pain in the butt. At least this model is that I'm finding.
Can I ask you a quick question, Kimberly?
Yes, Ray.
Well, and before I ask the question, can I preface it with, I miss you so much.
I miss you, Ray. I miss you so much. I miss my Ray.
I do. I really, really do. Do you think that because we're Americans, that one of the reasons why we haven't seen as much prolonged EV adoption to the same degree as what you see in Europe is because as Americans, we don't want anybody to tell us what we have to buy or drive?
I do think so. And Ray, from August of 2023 to today, it still takes twice as long to sell an EV to someone as it does to sell an ICE vehicle to someone. So yes, I think that people are just like, no, you're not going to do, Americans, you're not going to do that to me. You're not going to shove that into my face and expect me to do it. It's a backfire, and I don't think that's going to work.
Now, look, most of the stuff I hear from people when you drill down into it is they won't buy an EV because they feel like the government is telling them they have to. And that is, I think, has worked way against EVs a lot. I think there's a lot of people close their mind and don't even listen anymore. They don't look up facts. They'll glob onto false information, like you're going to have to replace your battery in 20,000 miles. It's going to cost you $50,000. They'll glom onto those because they're just in this no, never going to happen, and you can't make me mode. And I think it has really hurt adoption a lot. And I have said this really from the beginning, is the quote unquote mandates, which aren't really mandates yet, but might be, like, those are just going to hurt adoption. Americans do not like being told what to do. Where you see the highest EV adoption, you also see where the citizenry thinks very highly of their government. And they think their government is really like there for them, and they think they're great. And America, by our very founding, is kind of like, yeah, well, we don't really trust government. So when you tell us what to do, we're contrarians as Americans.
Don't you think they need to just change the wording and the disposition that they throw these things out at us?
Yes.
Folks, it'd be really great if by 2025, the entire state could go EVs. Wouldn't that be great? Instead of by this year, we're going to be at all EV. No, don't do that. It sure would be nice. It would help save the planet. It would do this, it would do that. But no, the wording and the demeanor of the officials stating these kinds of things, I think they
But
need to.
Kimberly, I will tell you this too. On that line, I agree, but at the same time, it doesn't matter how he would phrase it, how nice it would be if Gavin Newsom got up and said, "Gee, we really sure would like to be here. Well, we hope everyone gets along." Everyone in 49 other states is going to say, "F you, buddy. California's crazy. We're not going to do anything you guys want to do."
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how certain people phrase things. Like if it comes out of California, despite what Newsom may think, nobody's going to go along with that, and nobody's going to be on board.
Yeah.
I agree with what Igor just said in the chat, that it's really an infrastructure issue for a lot of people. I know
Yeah.
everyone has
It
their
is.
reasons, but
Yes.
geography in the
But-
United States.
But that one's the real one. I want to say that. There's a lot of fake reasons, but this is a real one, and
Yes.
range is the other real one. Like, I think those two are the real
I agree.
pushbacks.
Yes, I agree.
In Europe, where I just pulled up the numbers because they're fascinating, many countries in Europe have over 35% fully electric market share right now, with some countries such as Norway, Iceland, well over 50% fully electric new car market share. You can't find a place in those countries where, well, maybe you can in northern Norway, where you're going to go 200 miles without an EV charger. Believe it or not, there are parts of like northern Montana, Wyoming, where you're going to still, even if you've got a Tesla, you're going to have vast stretches without any electric vehicle infrastructure. Overall, Europe is far more urban than the United States is today. And in urban areas, it's easier to live that EV lifestyle. That's why so many people have them in New York and LA. Here in the US, we're just different, and it's going to take longer to build that trust in the infrastructure. I think it's going to take what we started to see, which is other legacy automakers pooling their money to fund the very unprofitable business of building out even more charging networks in order to get more of their car buyers to go electric. So
I have a question then, Justin.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question to all of you is, do you all think that Americans, with the EV and the range anxiety, we do know that there's more planning to it. I just listened to a gal standing in the showroom the other day talking about this, saying, yeah, it just takes more planning. My husband has an EV and we have to plan. Do you think we as Americans just don't want to do that? Because you can plan it out and there are more charging stations. And Justin, you and I live in a state where everything is 20 miles away.
Yeah, no, I don't think Americans are any more against that than a prospective EV buyer in Europe would be. I'm pretty sure no matter where you're at, it is tough to make that switch. For me personally, I think once people start to have firsthand experience with EVs, whether that is being a passenger in one, or I know Hertz is going through their whole EV rental shenanigans, but if you've rented an EV, sure, there are some people like Ray who would probably hate it, but a lot of people fall in love with EVs through that experience. That's how I was like, I want an electric car, because I sat as a passenger in my friend's Tesla Model 3 in 2019, and I was like, wow, this is different. I want this. So I think I don't think it's as much of like dreading the change to your schedule and changes in how you feel the vehicle and charging stops. I think everyone has to get used to that, no matter where on the planet you are.
Well, we just want everything now, and I can go jump in my car and go right now and not have to think about it. I know how much gas I have in there. I know I can.
Oh yeah.
And we want it now.
So I agree that is a sticking point, but I don't think it's specific to Americans.
Gotcha.
Like, I think people worldwide who are considering making the switch to a full EV have that same dilemma. And that's why I am not one to say that EVs are for everyone. I've never been that kind of EV advocate. I think that if you tow a trailer across West Virginia, buy a hybrid F-150. They're great. Don't buy an EV. Yeah, there are situations where it's not going to work out here in the States for probably the rest of this decade.
I think if there was a different narrative happening, more along the lines of not trying to say, hey, by a certain year, you're no longer going to be able to buy an internal combustion engine vehicle. Like, if it was just kind of like introduce, you keep pushing the technology into the market, having them for sale, have people try them out without having to have the mandates in place by a certain year, you know, freaking people out like, you know, I have to be forced into doing it by a certain date. Had they done it differently, I bet you the adoption rate would probably be a lot higher today than what it currently is. It does go back to that forced mandate, and also infrastructure, obviously. But that's
Well,
that's a
I
thought I
think
had.
Tesla, I mean, I think Tesla shows exactly what you're saying a little bit, Phil, was they took off before mandates.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason they took off was they decided really, really early on, we better fix this infrastructure and we better get chargers out there for
Hmm.
people. Is even, we've had a couple comments like, how often do you drive 200 miles in a day? Yeah, you don't really. But I will tell you that people don't want to think about that all the time. I live in an apartment, so it's not like I can come home and plug in every day. I think certainly if you're in the Northeast, you're up where, Phil is, where it's, 900 degrees below zero. You need to go
Oh,
and
that's not right. Come on.
No, it's 902, Justice.
902. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Kimberly.
But if you don't have a garage to plug in, and you don't, so you have to go out and charge. You can't do that every day. Well, you can, but you don't want to go charge every single day at a supercharger, right? I don't drive much, so I do it once a week. So I don't, well, it doesn't bother me at all. But if I had to do it every day, EVs would probably be more of a hassle than I wanted to deal with, to Kimberly's point. And I think Kimberly, there is something to be said for the first time I road tripped down to LA, and I knew I had to make the plan of where to go. And even for me with a Tesla, I can't do it in a Tesla because they'll get you rolling into the charging station at 1%. And if you hit unexpected traffic, construction, have to take a detour, you get screwed. So I had to use another app to plan my route because it allows me to say, I don't want to arrive with less than, and I usually set that about 15%. It's like, I don't want to arrive at the charger with less than 15% because I want to account for all of those issues that can happen on the roads. I live in California. I've never been on a highway that didn't have construction. And how long have I been here? 40 years. And I've never run into a highway without construction on it. Stuff happens. So if I'm road tripping, you're right. There is more to it than planning. My only other thing that I noticed was when my baby sister passed and I was going to the hospital all the time. There was one time I got a call that there were some complications and I was going, and I had 15% battery. And that was something I couldn't just pull up to the gas station, take 2 minutes, fill up and go. Like, right. It was going to take me some time. Now it took me 5 minutes because I just that's all I charged. But if it was farther away, that could have been up to 30 minutes that I would have been waiting. And, that happened to be the day she passed. And like, it would have missed all of that in that moment because it takes longer to charge us. So if she had been farther away, it would have been a problem for me. So, and I know those are things people think about and they're inconveniences. And since then, I don't really let my car even get down to 15% anymore because you never know when an emergency is going to happen. And if you can't charge at home, there's something you do need to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
It seems to me that once charging stations are as plentiful as gas stations are today, at that point, it would certainly become easier for people to say, I'll make the switch. So it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? In this case, what came first, buying the EV or the infrastructure to charge that EV. And I think in order to get the type of mass adoption that some states want, that allegedly the federal government wants, is you have to have almost an excess amount of EV infrastructure in place for it to finally happen. It's just you don't. I don't want to plan when I don't drive anywhere anymore. But if I were to take a trip, I don't want to say, "Oh my God, if I don't stop here, well, I'm going to just run out of fuel." There's pretty much gas stations everywhere, but there's not pretty much charging stations with chargers that work everywhere. And I think that's the dilemma for a lot of people.
Well, and I think battery technology, which we talk about all the time too, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but a lot of the solid states that they're talking about, they're also talking about charging in 10 minutes or less.
Yeah, and interestingly, I like how some of the legacy OEMs are planning to experiment, beta tester customers with solid state batteries. They're actually going to be launching them with like plug-in hybrids and things like that. So in my opinion, that's actually the right way to do it, to get this technology out there that could, I'm not going to say be the final nail in the coffin, but I'm going to say the final nail in the coffin for vehicles. Because if you're looking at high energy density, low flammability, so you can get rid of some of those risks that firefighters do currently have to worry about with EVs. Affordability, fast charging. I mean, you could be looking at charging in 10 minutes and having a lot of the things that EV owners complain about today really eliminated with that new technology. Yeah, there was something I was thinking about in that conversation you guys were just having about what needs to happen to materially move numbers here in the US. And I think we've covered them all. You need to have better infrastructure. You need to have lower MSRPs, which is happening now. But then there's two things that I don't feel like we've touched on a lot. So thinking of the Volkswagen ID4 and what I have seen with it's one of the best-selling non-Tesla EVs, there are some real disadvantages in owning some of today's popular EVs. For example, slow charging. You'd be surprised that you can buy a $55,000 EV and it still takes 40 minutes to charge. We need to see like massive technological improvements in some of these non-Tesla EVs in order to get more mass adoption. I mean, I recall on my road trip recently, I charged from about 20% to 80% in my car in the same time it took the ID4 next to me to go from like 50% to 80%.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff has to become more standardized, meaning that if every car on sale, every electric vehicle on sale can charge really fast, you're going to have more people interested because they don't want to be worrying about all the technical details that us early adopters spend time nerding out about, and then also just when the masses are convinced that having to replace a battery outside of warranty is not going to break the bank, you're going to get a lot more EV adoption. I've spoken to quite a few locals here in West Virginia, a very, let's say, it's not a pro EV state. And one thing that you hear from a lot of people is, well, what happens when you have to replace the battery? How much is that going to cost me? And that's a very valid concern. I look forward to hopefully the end of this decade when that is much less of a concern. And I think that will continue to move numbers.
Justin, there was not so long ago, there was an announcement that they were going to be building a battery plant in our state. And I thought it was down by you somewhere. Do you know anything about that? Are they still on track to build that very large battery plant?
I need to pay attention to the local news more. I have not seen that. Please do share if you find it. What I do know is that one of the largest electric school bus makers in the nation is building here in West Virginia already. It's called Green Power. And that's a perfect use case scenario for going full EV, saving a ton on maintenance, a ton on fuel, driving around town, going maybe 50 miles a day. Yeah. But no, please do share if you find out about that, Kimberly.
I'll dig that up.
And so, Igor had some interesting comments too here, and I think we've discussed it a few times. And Kimberly, I know we discussed it on a couple of shows you were on, which is, he's saying, in EU, a random teen on the street knows more about EVs than dealers, car salespeople in America do. And this
Yes.
is absolutely true. Anytime I've ever test driven, I just helped my buddy buy the Ioniq 5. We went and test drove all kinds of vehicles. Every single salesperson we were in the car with quickly found out I knew way more about the car than they did. And, the good ones started asking me questions. The other ones just stopped talking. Literally, it would just be a silent ride. But the good ones just start asking me all kinds of questions. Okay, teach me about this. Teach me about that. And that, while I appreciated that from the salespeople, it really annoyed me that they have to come to their customers or potential customers to ask questions, because their dealer's not telling them anything about it. Their dealer's not training them on anything. I don't know why the OEMs aren't setting up classes and stuff, or maybe they do, no one takes it. I don't know, but the people know nothing about the cars they're selling. They know a lot of misinformation. Like this. What happens if the battery catches fire? Well, it certainly can happen. However, EVs are the far less likely to catch fire than any other type of vehicle. Your ICE vehicle is much more likely, and your hybrid is by far the most likely to catch fire.
And that's
Now,
based on
when they do
actual
catch fires,
insurance statistics. That's
Yeah.
based on hard facts from
Yep.
insurance companies themselves. So,
yeah. Granted, when they do catch fire, EVs are the worst.
yes.
Super hard to put out. You put them out, and a few minutes later they ignite again. That's real. But I don't fully understand the cost of the vehicle plus $14,500 for charging. I don't know where that comes from. Charging is much, 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 much cheaper. I've spent $1,100 on charging in the year that I've owned my Tesla. I'm sure you have spent more than that on gas.
It cost me $12 to fill it up from empty at home, and I have about U.S. average electricity rates.
Yeah, my average is $7 when I go charge once a week. So I charge about $7 a week. Call it $10 a week, because sometimes I take road trips and stuff. So about $10 a week to do mine. So it was at $5,200 a year. I'm pretty sure gas is more than that. Certainly where I am, where the other day I drove by, it was $5.29 a gallon.
You guys in that country, I tell you.
Yeah, you mean state. You mean state.
It's 350, 340, 350 in most of the U.S.
Ray, I can imagine and I know you can too, you're in the dealership and there's that one salesperson that knows the most about that one car. Oh, let me go get Bob. He knows everything about this vehicle. We always had that one salesperson that knew all the intricacies of a certain model.
It would seem to me that you would need to follow a program that Mini and BMW created several years back, and that's their Genius program, where they have product specialists that just know the vehicles. They're not salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
They're not commissioned people. They can't sell you a car. They can share with you their knowledge of the car. And if say you're at a Ford dealership and you've never had to employ people like that, well, that's an expense that, as a dealer principal, you're looking at, well, what do I want to spend that kind of money for? Well, so you can educate your customers, and so that you can actually educate the rest of your sales staff there. It's pretty important for somebody to have more than just a passing knowledge of the technology that you're selling. But it's going to be difficult. It's just, I don't know very many salespeople that knew that much about the internal combustion engine
I
cars
was
they
just
sold.
gonna say that.
Yeah.
You know, well, how big's the engine? Well, I don't know. It's bigger than this. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Does it have power windows? I don't know.
There's buttons on the side somewhere. So, I guess ultimately, what it comes down to is customers have to be self-educated, and Justice, this from when you sold cars. People
I was
would
just
come
about
in-
to say, Ray, because of my training at Toyota, I have
Yeah.
a job at CarEdge.
Okay. But-
I'm here because they taught me nothing,
Mhm.
and I found YAA back in those days with you and Zach, and I learned more from you and Zach there on your channels, which is how I got connected with you guys. So I'm at CarEdge because Toyota taught me absolutely nothing about vehicles, and especially the trucks.
And from having sold cars that a lot of your customers that came in knew more about the vehicle they were interested in buying than you knew about that vehicle as their salesperson.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned the trucks, because truck people know those
Oh my
vehicles.
God, do they ever?
Like nobody else. They know those vehicles, and they would come in and that, what is the displacement of fuel? I'm like, what the fuck? So I go Google it. I'd be like, well, get in and take a look at the interior while I Google and find out. But I will tell you, most of my peers didn't even do that.
Yeah.
They just didn't even do that. I would at least, I'd sit in the back on the test drive. They'd ask me stuff, and I'd have Google open. I'm like, okay, let's find out.
Give me a minute.
Because I wanted to at least give them accurate information instead of BSing it, which a lot of times what I heard was double speak at a lot of salespeople. I'm like, you didn't say anything in that. You gave them no information. So at least I was trying, but it was very, very frustrating. And I know that's why I say the good EV salespeople are the ones who were asking me questions, because they wanted to at least know and learn about it. And, sometimes I'm like, you should Google that because I don't know.
So I'll tell you what terrifies me related to this. The fact that my beloved Ioniq 5 is in the hands of the dealership right now. I worry about the service department. Like, I know they go through training, and for this kind of stuff, they might have someone come to their dealership to train them. And I've heard for some OEMs, they send them away to learn how to work on the EVs, go on a little work vacation for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I worry that, I don't know, those of you who worked at a dealership, which is everyone except me, should I be worried about this, or do you trust the training regiments for legacy OEMs for working on EVs? Should I be worried?
Good techs want to know. It's really that simple. The really good techs are always learning everything they can about the vehicles that they're working on. Now, a good tech who's always worked on ICE vehicles, obviously it's going to take time for them to build up the expertise that's needed to work on electric vehicles. But if the dealer has some techs there that have been wrenching for 20 or 30 years, trust me, they're going to want to do it right. They're going to want to know why you do it the way you do it. What's the best way to do it. So I don't think I would be as worried about that as I would some other things.
Yeah, and I would like to say too that Justice's experience at that Toyota dealership, we're not saying that that's how car salespeople are across the country. It's just yes,
that was
you
my
do
experience
have
at my
to get-
dealership, which was
yeah,
not the
exactly.
greatest dealership.
Exactly. And you do
Yeah.
have to become certified. You sit in front of a computer for God knows how long. That does not mean the day after you get your certification in whatever manufacturer it is that you're going to know it all. Like Ray said, it takes time and experience and all of that. There are a lot of very knowledgeable salespeople, as
Mhm.
well as exactly what Ray just said.
And I wish I was at what I wish I had worked for Ray. I feel like or maybe I don't, because maybe I'd still be in the business. Because I just felt like my training was they handed me a brochure of a Camry to read through, and then walk around and tell them what I learned from the brochure, and then told me to go sell cars. That was
Yeah.
100% of my training, and it was the same day. So it was just my training was not necessarily typical. The person I worked for has since sold off all the dealerships and retired. So not necessarily a bad thing, though. I'm sure that was probably more of a GM thing than an owner thing. I don't know though. Ray would know more about that than I do. But yeah, I certainly not everyone. But California seems to have an abundance of people who aren't fully trained, at least in EVs. I don't know about the rest of the cars, but
I
Don't
will,
worry, Justin.
like-
It'll be fine. You'll probably just find a few loose parts in there. That's all. But they'll shake themselves out as you go along. So
Yeah,
it's okay.
my
Yeah.
car will get one of those weird rattles that I can't stand
Yeah.
after the service visit. Yep, that's what I'm terrified of. Well, before I exit the show here in a few minutes, I had a question for, well, Justice, you've already got an EV, so Ray, Phil, and Kimberly. I've got a burning question. I understand you're not going to buy an EV right now or anytime soon, maybe never. But if you were, based on what you've seen in today's market, what EV would you buy? Kimberly, I especially want to hear you first. What would you buy if you? Okay, so I don't want to get the government involved, but if you
I
had
know
to,
this one.
if you had to, what
I
would you
don't
buy?
think you do, Justice. I
Yes,
don't
I
think you do.
I have no clue what Kimberly's going to say.
Well, Justice does know. I would get the one with the
Yeah, that would be the Model X.
Model
That
X,
one.
nice.
Yeah.
She never knows what it's called, but that's the one that she would buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
You
seagull
go
wing.
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've told her what it was called like about 30 times. But
Yeah, I always forget the bird. It's
yeah.
like that black
she
bird
she
wing.
still
or-
doesn't want it enough to know the name of it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So Phil, electric Dodge Charger for you, Phil, or
No.
Challenger or whatever.
No.
Cadillac Lyric,
No.
right?
That was a
Yeah.
joke. But what would you get, Phil?
Probably the Lyric.
Oh, nice. And Ray?
I don't know. I haven't seen I haven't seen an EV yet that has moved me emotionally to say I've got to have it. I just haven't seen one yet.
Every time I see a Cybertruck, I start heading to the refrigerator. It makes me hungry.
Okay. I will tell you that there is only one car that I have ever driven where I have said it's overpriced. I don't care. It is the most enjoyable car I've ever driven, and that was the Audi RS6 Avant wagon that Zach and I did a
Oh.
review
Oh,
on.
yeah.
And
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And-
I'm just saying.
it and there has never been another car that I have been in my lifetime where I've said I gotta have this. I've got to have it. And I haven't seen anything EV wise that has moved me to say that. So I don't know. I guess the truth of the matter is, if I'm ever in an EV, it'll be because my Lyft driver or my Uber driver, that's their car of choice, and so I'm in the back seat.
Well, thank you for a non-answer, Ray.
I-
You politician. Yeah.
well,
I think Ray's answer is for $5,500 one pay lease, he would get into an Ioniq 5.
I wanted
Maybe.
to give Ray a test ride in my car. Ray, you've got to let me take you to Starbucks or something in the Ioniq 5. I think it's a car you'd be impressed with. Not that you're going to buy one, but you would.
I'm
like
not saying I wouldn't be impressed. I'm just saying. I guess ultimately what it boils down to is I'm not that much of a car guy that I see too many cars where I gotta go, I have to have it. But I will tell you, after when Zach and I did that series of reviews, and we drove some pretty impressive muscle cars, an M series competition, the Cobra, the Mustang Cobra GT, the Corvette. The only one that really stood out to me where I said when everything is all said and done was that RS6 Avant. I mean, that was it. And so I guess I will never own an EV. And if I ever had stupid money, I would own an Avant RS6, knowing that I'm going to put like 1,000 miles a year on the damn thing. But it would be the funnest 1,000 miles that I would ever drive every year.
Justin, would you get an Ioniq all over again?
Honestly,
like today?
If I was in the market today, now that I have one addition in the family, we welcomed our son Danilo in May of last year. I'd probably go for a Kia EV9 because I love those things. I'm not upgrading. I'm keeping this Ioniq 5, but I sat in an EV9 at a dealership just to check it out, and I was blown away.
Yep.
And I've already started seeing them on the roads, and they just came out, so they must be pretty popular.
They're great. I test drove one. I love the EV9. It's out of my price range.
And it's surprisingly efficient when it comes to miles per kilowatt hour for a huge non-aerodynamic vehicle.
Yeah. It's definitely more of a standard traditional SUV type vehicle. And I would just want to say I think Ray would lean more towards Hyundai's if he was to get an EV because there's more buttons and switches and there's a lot less adjustment. I know 100% Ray is not a Tesla guy. It's never. I don't care what price point Tesla puts it at. Ray's not going to get in there and be happy. But I think
the fit and finish was a little off on a Tesla. and I'm a tactile guy. I need buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have those in a Tesla.
No. Yeah. And I don't think you'd be happy with the screen only. Yeah. Ray. It's just. But Michael says, "Are you going to get the Cialis Steak?"
I'm going to be really, really good here. And
car is so ugly.
It's
and I like Cadillac, right?
I don't know, Ray. It's a hard car to get.
It's hard to answer that question.
Yes. It's because Ray, it's such a soft market.
It is a hard car in a soft market. You are absolutely.
Oh my God! It's like being back in the dealership again.
I do apologize. Yes, I do apologize.
See what this looks like, this Cialis.
Justin, thank you for being here, Justin.
Thank you for the invite. You all have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you to all the viewers for being a part of this wonderful channel's growth, and thank you to Justice and Ray for keeping it going. It's beautiful to see what it's become, and I'll be back at some point. So thank you so much for having me today.
Don't leave Phil out because
I was saying Justice, Ray, and Phil. No.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw the intro.
Hi, Phil. Thank you, Phil.
I'm here now.
Whether he wants to be or not is another story.
Yeah, speak up more, Phil. Well, thank you, Phil, and thank you, Kimberly, for being here. It's great to see you again.
Oh, you too, Justin. Go Mountaineers.
See you, Justin. Thank you.
Going back to his question about what car I would buy. The Lyric, maybe. Justice, I went to go test drive one, and I wasn't. Yeah.
You know how I feel.
I wasn't blown away, right? Not for an $80,000 price tag for the one that I looked at. But I am liking what I saw with the Vistique. So that's their midsize SUV. that's going to
I know
probably
nothing about
replace
that
the
one, Phil.
X6, and it actually looks good. It looks good. So I don't know. Maybe that might be the one that I might go for if
Yeah.
I wanted to buy an EV.
Phil, I still think I know Ray will never get an EV. I'm 50-50 on if Kimberly ever will, but I'm 100% sure before the end of your life you will get an
You
EV.
know, fine. Justice, you're probably right. I will feel more comfortable if there are just, and it's just, and this is just a mindset, right? Like you'll feel more comfortable when you have a charging station at almost every corner.
But you could park it in the garage
but
and
that's,
charge
I
where
mean,
you are. But yes, you're right.
I totally understand that, and you're completely right. But it's a mindset.
It is.
Like
It's
just
absolutely a mindset. And I will say this: I do believe you will buy an EV one day, Phil, but you will always have a second ICE vehicle for the rest of your life too.
yes, that is absolutely correct.
I don't believe you'll ever be a
No.
EV only.
I
With
will not be
Phil,
a complete.
he'll have a second, third, maybe a fourth ICE sitting out
Yeah.
in his
That
10-car
could be possible
garage.
too, Kimberly, which makes it okay for me to. Yeah, I'll buy an EV, but I still have
Yeah.
a couple A's sitting around.
Yeah.
Right,
How about,
right.
How about the Rolls-Royce Spectre
No,
EV?
I don't want that, Igor. No.
Oh, look, Debbie seems to like the.
Yeah, see,
the
Debbie,
seat
it does.
too. Yeah.
It does look good. I'm super interested to see what the interior looks like, but I'm gonna wager that it's probably very similar to what the Escalade looks like.
In my
And then
Escalade.
David, you have a lovely trip. David is taking his road trip in his ID4 this weekend. He will be
Oh.
back on. He'll be on the show to tell us how it goes because he's got one charger between him and his destination, and he's fully loading it. And so he clearly has some. He's optimistic, but has some range anxiety. So I'm very curious to see how that goes in Florida. I mean, he's in nice, beautiful weather, so that should help.
Here's a crazy question before we go. You know how AAA has a service, like if you run out of gas, they'll show up with a gas can and put some gas in your vehicle so you can get to the nearest gas station. Do they have some type of service that if you run out of electricity, that they have some type of portable charger that they can bring to
They here in
They're gonna have to
California,
have some-
at least, they have large charging trucks that have
Large
batteries on
charging
them.
trucks.
So they're like delivery
Right, I
trucks.
would assume also
that
that
have-
probably the OEMs have something like that as part of their roadside assistance because
Yeah, Tesla has it as part
they
of their
do that with
assistance.
gas, right? Like, I mean, if you run out of gas, you can call roadside.
Yeah.
But it's only going to
Right.
charge you up enough to get to the next charging
Correct.
station. They're not
Right.
going to fully charge you. It's just get you up, get you going, get you to the charging station, and then
That's the same with gas too, right? Like they're gonna put like two gallons of gas in your car. Hey, that'll get you to the next.
But the
station.
likelihood is you're going to find a gas station
Right.
Yeah,
in the next 15 or 20 miles, and the same might not be the case for a charging station with a charger that works,
Mhm.
yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
the dilemma
Yeah,
for
exactly.
a lot of people.
Yeah,
The
like I said, my buddy who got the Ioniq 5, so many of the chargers he went to were
Yes.
just not working at Electrify America. And he's just like, well, what do you do?
Whoever comes up, the first person that comes up with a device that is this size that you can carry with you and plug your car into
Ooh, I like that.
will be the next trillionaire.
Ooh.
Yeah,
the
or they
first.
could just get a Mr. Fusion that you can put on the back of your car and just charge your battery up that way.
I mean, something like that to completely get rid of range anxiety. Somebody needs to come up with something.
I'm liking it.
Yeah. Battery technology is probably more likely on that side of it. You just need, solid
100%
state.
on that side.
Yeah, it's just going to be, and we've talked before. Infrastructure is a really big deal, but also just knowing where the chargers are, because I think the infrastructure is probably more than most people think they are. Just they're not gas stations are not on every corner. Look, when I charge, I go to the back of the mall where nobody is. You just don't know, and if you're not charging, you have no idea where that is.
If any of these gas stations
Thank
were
you for
smart,
understanding the reference, Stuart. And yes, I am Gen X. What was that, Phil?
I just, I feel like if any of these gas stations, the owners were smart, they would invest in just putting in chargers.
Lots of them
at
have. Lots of
all.
them are.
Like, yeah, I mean,
Shell
I
is
feel like-
starting to do it on a corporate level.
okay, that's good.
Because you do need to. I agree. Like, I think the fact that Tesla, especially, they're off so hidden all the time. Because for Tesla, part of it is they need to be where the electrical junction boxes are in these places. You save money. You're not running. You're not tearing up the parking lot. So, and where are those boxes? They're always behind the complex. And Kimberly and I have talked about this many times of whether that's safe or not, whether you want to be at nighttime going behind the strip mall to go charge up and sit in your vehicle for 20 minutes.
Not a good thing, right?
Yeah, maybe some people feel uncomfortable with that.
Maybe some do. Yeah.
And
Take your baseball
would
bat
feel
and your
uncomfortable,
taser,
Yeah. I mean, and that's starting to be solved more and more. I see that. Tesla actually has now on their app where you can rate the charging station and people upload pictures of it so you could see it before even you go. Like, is it well lit? Is it, that kind of thing?
That goes into your planning. Yeah.
But to Phil's point, if gas stations just started installing some, it would be not that gas stations are all in nice areas, but at least they tend to be well lit.
Like Igor makes the point, that it's not cost effective for a small gas station. I get that.
No, yeah.
But if and here I'm going to push it back onto the government. Like if they're mandating mandates to have certain amount of vehicles that are going to be EVs on the road, like they should be helping out the small gas station owners and saying, look, we'll subsidize this. We'll pay for you to put it in because we have a mutual, benefit here to improve the network, right? Or the infrastructure. So, like,
yeah, but Phil, the government's not going to ever help the small mom and pop. They're only going to help the giant corporation. You know.
I know, and that's BS in my opinion, right? Because our country is built on, as we're built on small businesses. Of course, the larger corporations, but there are more than not, small businesses that that should be relying on that to take place.
Well, before we go, George has one final question here. What's for lunch, Ray?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't. That's why you haven't heard me talk about lunch, because I don't know. I do know that I have to go to the food store, and that is on my agenda after the show. So perhaps something will move me when I'm at the food store. I don't know what that something will be. Although I have thought recently that perhaps a couple Hebrew National all beef hot dogs with some chopped onion, mustard, and melted American cheese on them might be tasty.
I happen to have a pack of Hebrew National in the refrigerator right now. So.
Well, I'll be right over it.
So, I'm just saying, you usually inspire my lunch choices, whether I consciously know it or not.
Me too, but not today.
Yeah. So for me, it's usually like the next day I'm eating lunch, and I look down and I remember, damn it, this is what Ray said he was going to eat yesterday. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm so easy to persuade on food.
So I I will make it a point to check out the hot dog aisle at the supermarket today. I'm just saying.
Just saying. Just saying.
And can somebody please explain to me why you can only buy 8 hot dog buns, but hot dogs come 6 to a package? How did they get together and decide that? We're going to make you buy 2 more hot dog buns than you could ever hope to eat because you're
Kirkland
only
is
getting
fixed
6
that,
hot
right.
dogs.
Kirkland sells their brand, if you like their brand, in packs of 8.
Yeah, but I don't feel like having to drive 50 miles to get to my closest one and then
Well,
50 miles back. Okay.
Well, but you need to stock up on earthquake supplies, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Go
might
get the
after
earthquake
today.
supplies.
Yeah. So
Holy cow. It is the eclipse season, Justice.
Oh my,
Yes.
the stories of all the
It-
eclipse stuff
It
is
is the
crazy.
eclipse season, so
People
hold
are
on to your
gouging
pants.
people right and left like there were car dealers out there.
Hold
So
on
that
to your
if you want to
pants,
go,
people.
the hotels are like 300% their normal charge. Everyone is saying, don't drive an EV. If you drive an ICE vehicle to go watch the eclipse, fill up your tank because the roads are going to be crazy and packed and gas prices will go up. I've heard all kinds of stories about the eclipse. And I just kind of go, it's just a shadow still, right?
It's
It is-
just a shadow.
It's still just a
It is
shadow.
just a shadow with a
'Cause-
comment included. But
It's gonna be cloudy here in Michigan. At least
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
gonna
the
be
forecast
cloudy.
is. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you haven't seen one, like go out and see one at some point. But I just go, it's still just a shadow on the moon for me.
pretty fun
Not a
though.
huge
Pretty
thing.
fun shadow.
it
Yeah.
just gets
I mean,
dark, doesn't it?
proves that the Earth is a sphere, at least.
Yes, it does. I do remember working at the dealership when we all put our little glasses on and we all
Yeah.
ran out and we all look like a poster, we're all looking up with our glasses on. Oh, and then we all went back in and delivered cars.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that was a nice waste of time.
That was fun. Okay. Thank you so much for having me, Justice. I really, really appreciate it. It was very nice to be able to share your big day with Ray and Phil and Justin, and Zach was here for a little bit. And I really appreciate you asking me. So Ray all of you will be on my show at some point. Ray's like,
Yeah.
I'm still
yeah,
waiting.
let's get.
I'm
Yeah,
waiting.
we're not gonna
I
get set
told
up.
you a
There's
long
that.
time ago.
I
You
know.
just tell me when. I'll be there.
Yep,
Yeah.
I will text you.
Okay.
And that is youtube.com/@autofinancesense, right?
You got it. At Auto Finance Sense.
So
where I help
everyone can
you.
go there and check it out.
Yep.
You have amazing videos, Kimberly. I never miss them. I love watching them. Still learning
Aw.
from you. I've
Oh,
always
Justin.
learned all the F&I from you, and that's fantastic. I love watching your channel. It's fun. I love that set behind you.
Oh, well,
that-
thank you.
That is beautiful.
Thanks a
So
lot.
congratulations on all your success. You just hit 10,000 subscribers, right?
I think I'm at 11.5 now. Yeah, we're getting up there. I've been working on something to help people get through the second part of the deal behind the scenes. And so I haven't been active there for the past 2 weeks, but I'm on my way back after I get some more work done. But yeah, it's just so good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too.
You too,
I-
Kimberly.
I said before, I'll say it again. I've missed you, damn it.
I do, Ray. I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I love my son, but my Fridays just haven't been the same without you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, look, Kimberly, we miss you. I used to talk to you 5-6 days a week, and now
know.
I have to figure out stuff on my own, and
my
it's a real pain, and I do not
you have to
appreciate
ask
that.
Phil too. You have to deal with him.
Phil is so incredibly busy. He could barely make this show. I'll tell you,
I
Phil is
know.
just so. Every time I go to ask Phil something, it's like in meeting. I don't know. I think that's all Phil does.
I mean, yeah, that is correct. I wonder how I get anything done, to be honest with you.
I thought I said it best at our company meeting the other day, didn't I? When I blasted my son for his, how many meetings we need? Yeah, I was in corporate America. I was sick and tired of meetings, and now you got me in another one. Damn it! Yeah,
This is the only meeting I really look forward to every week.
exactly.
This one right here
I do too.
with
I
Ray
do
and
too.
Phil, and then wonderful guests like Kimberly who get to come on, and this is a fun time.
It is.
And we even talked about EVs most of the episode today.
We did, but
That
but
is
now
amazing.
I have to go. I have to go
Yep.
to the supermarket because just talking about food made me hungry.
I know I'm starving now. I'm like, what am I going to have for lunch? Oh my God.
All right, everyone have a great day. Thank you again, Kimberly, Ray, and
Thank you.
Phil. It's been amazing. Ray, thank you for 100 for being here with me. Phil, you've been here for what,
Awesome.
like 50 of them?
Something like that, I think.
Yeah, so it has been
Could be.
great. We will see everyone next week where we will get back to talking about Ray's lunches and
Yes, I promise.
and
Yes.
occasionally
I
things
promise.
about EV.
We'll start off. It'll be one or two things about EV, and then we'll.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we will devolve as always.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye bye.